of doing a couple of classes a week.
Allow us to journey into these altered states.
It really whacked me psyche though, big time.
If you just sit reading books, it's the shadow because you're not going to be in your body.
Welcome to Creating Space, bringing people together. Real conversations with real people, telling stories and sharing our gifts right here in the heart of Liverpool, inspiring new ideas, education and co-creation.
Choose a challenge that lights you up and is going to make a difference in the world.
Creating Space.
Sponsored by the Scouts Guru app.
And we are live. Welcome back to Creating Space. My name's Martin Bone. It's the 2nd of December. We are officially out of lockdown. So I'm looking forward to going for some food later on, actually, and having a nice pint. We're in Liverpool podcasting studios as we speak. I've got a really beautiful friend of mine, Matt Gunn, who we're interviewing today. I haven't really done much recording over the last month or so. I've been working in the background and getting some stuff done. Almost preparing for next year. I've got a lovely retreat coming up next week with Men Without Masks. It's going to be our final one of the year 2020, and just planning on moving forward. Got some great stuff happening in 2021 and excited for all them endeavours. So again, today we've got a beautiful man in the studio, Matt Gunn. Matt's been on the radar for quite some time. I've known Matt for a number of years, possibly around 10 years now, and we've always been acknowledge each other in passing, and over the last few years especially, and probably more over the last 12 months, we've become really, really close friends, and now our families are now become close friends, our partners have become close friends with one another, and it's been a really beautiful experience for me to have Matt around. So Matt's a psychotherapist, he's a breathwork practitioner, he's got a great story to tell, he's an ex-personal trainer, he's an initiated Scouser, and he's a father of two, and a really beautiful man, and he's a dear friend of mine. So Matt, welcome to Creating Space, welcome to the platform. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, really nice. You were just kind of talking before we went live that like this is a first. This is kind of like me absolutely out of my comfort zone, but equally like really excited and grateful to be here, and kind of couldn't think of a better person to share my first time with.
And you know what? It's funny you should say that. I remember my first podcast, you know what I mean, and like wanting it to all be, sound great and wanting to be like really professional and that, and then we've just grabbed a coffee from Nomad on Smithdown Road, and I was just running through about to introduce it, and I'm just super comfortable now. It's important that you be yourself, and you've got a great story to tell, which I'm really looking forward to diving in today. And and I was almost thinking, them jokes like, how are we? You know what I mean? Like, let's just get in there, So it's a blessing to have you here. You've got a beautiful story to tell. You've been such a massive influence on me over the years, actually, and you probably didn't know it. We always had a really nice bond, which we respected, and then we started to come together more so in 2020, and it's been a lovely journey this year, hasn't it? With our friendship, and we do some jiu-jitsu together, and we've spent some time at home, in your home, sharing some good food, some good times, and so I'm just super blessed to have you here, and it's going to be a great podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
So you're struggling a little bit with this moment, aren't you? Settling into it.
Well, we were driving here, and I was thinking, do you know what? I don't think I've ever even done a voice note on WhatsApp, and I'm just about to do a podcast. So, I'm just kind of like learning more and more at the moment to just trust whatever's presented to me and to step into it, even though it's uncomfortable, and. Like, I'm so passionate about the stuff that we're going to talk about today, and how needed it is right now, that I'm just kind of leaning into my edge, really. Yeah. And every time I do that, it seems to work out. So I keep showing up despite the discomfort with it, and it all works out. And so I'm learning more and more now just to trust the universe, trust the process, and it hasn't let me down yet.
Because it's talking about your life the work that you've been doing on yourself. I know you've been doing some, a lot of personal work over the years, and from what I've, I've known of you of this year, especially, and the time we've shared together, you've been doing a lot of work this year, haven't you? I know you've got a couple of other coaches that you're checking in with.
Yeah.
One is like a body work, breathwork practitioner.
Yeah.
And then the other guy's like a man's coach, isn't
men's
he?
coach,
in America, and all this stuff's done over Zoom, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So let's lean into 2020 and how this has been for you this year and the work you've been doing, and then that'll probably take us back in time. And this is all just for the benefit of the listener. Obviously, it's you sharing your story and you sharing the things that are alive for you. It's an opportunity for you to express yourself, but it's great for the listener, because our intention here with this platform is to just give people an opportunity to express their story and be inspired by other people's journey.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good to me.
So 2020,
yeah. So professionally, like the busiest year of my life so far. So like you said, I kind of made that transition from personal trainer to psychotherapist. So that was kind of like 4 years of training, a real kind of deep dive into my own life and a really powerful understanding of myself. Big kind of healing journey. And yeah, this year I've really kind of had the opportunity to put it into practice. So I predominantly work in the field of addiction. I work with a supported housing project. And yeah, so kind of just with the kind of current lockdown stuff, I've been seeing everybody online, doing Zoom sessions. So that's been interesting in itself, like learning how to kind of work with that platform and get the most out of counselling online, which I feel really comfortable now and really convinced that it works. You know, like we've done some incredible work. Alongside that, I've recently qualified as a breathwork facilitator. So I've trained over the last 12 months, but it was a 7-month course with integrative breathwork. So with Steph Magenta and Ray Rydell, and we did 7 months online. And then we had a 1-week retreat in Glastonbury, which was incredible. For me, like the breath work has been the missing link. It's kind of like put all of the pieces together. So the counselling provided a real deep awareness and an understanding of who I am and an ability to be able to help others discover who they are and why they are where they are. But the breath work has allowed me to be in my own body. And equally kind of teach others to be in theirs. My biggest discovery was that like I spent so much time in my own head, just in constant strategy and wanting to work everything out and wanting to understand everything. And never really connecting to any sort of major sense of peace. And it wasn't until I reconnected with my breath and sort of took that journey into my body that things just started changing. And so breath work and presence practice has just been something massively transformational for me. You know, probably the most healing element of my journey so far. And so I'm really fortunate to be able to bring it to clients now, to be able to bring the more traditional sort of transpersonal counselling element, but in addition to that, to be able to add breath work, embodiment practices, and I just think that's like the perfect combination.
You know, we get so much stuck in the mind nowadays, don't we? The analytical parts of our mind, psychologically overthinking, running away with our thoughts, and we can put ourselves in such distress, can't we? You know, and just with the nature of the mind, that we almost just forget how to be natural, don't we? We lose this sense of just naturalness and peacefulness and softness and connection. And the mind's our greatest asset, and when we can master the mind, and understand it a little bit more, and have some simple mindfulness practices, which I know you've embodied as well. You know, you've got a meditation practice there, but getting into the body, that's where all the magic is, isn't it? And also that's where all the trauma is, Matt, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so I know the power of, obviously, you know, holding space and being present, and that's what you do here in Liverpool. But having these embodiment exercises to get in the body, to use the breath as a bridge, as a container, it's magical stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that sort of thought of the breath being a bridge from the brain to the heart.
Yeah.
Like, that really resonates with me. And I think kind of like the more I work with people, the more I'm aware that they need to start to feel safe in their own body before they're kind of able to sort of really unpick and understand themselves deeply. To be able to do their healing, they need to firstly kind of come home to their body, come home to their heart. So I'm kind of bringing that in much earlier than I previously would have done, you know, into sessions. So really kind of inviting people to develop their own practices and teaching them. And so as the sessions develop and as we build rapport, we're experimenting with different practices, be they sort of meditation or breath work, and then sort of weaving in the awareness that you gain from the counselling.
That's a magic formula, that is. You know,
definitely is.
And
you know, and I think for me, when I'm out of my head and in my body, I'm in my truth. You know, like all of the story, all of the fear, all of the strategy just sort of dissolves. And I'm sort of left in my truth. And I'm blessed to get to experience that and remind myself daily with it, because without that, I can just be just lost. Be really up in my own head and favouring isolation, favouring distance,
getting in that comfort zone,
that isn't comfortable, that's actually miserable and lonely, you know. And so the more I connect to my breath, the more I connect to my body, the safer I feel, and then the world just looks like a completely different place. So I can do stuff like this. I can work with groups of people and be really deeply present, which is something like such a treat, you know, because for years, for decades, I've sort of worn this mask that everything's okay, I'm absolutely fine, but don't come near me, don't get anywhere near this. And we talked in the car, didn't we, about embracing humanness, about kind of like feeling into our desire for perfection, and that was like a big part of my story. Was that I really wanted to appear. I wanted everyone to know that I was okay. Didn't need to worry about me. I've got it covered. And mastered the art of really looking like that and giving that impression. But really, kind of inside, I felt the exact opposite. You know, just fear, anxiety, a desire to remain separate. Because
there's a longing, isn't it, to belong and, you know, and to fit in, and then that's where we overcompensate, you know, and it takes us away from our authenticity. You know, from my understanding, that comes from a fear of being judged, and, you know, there's a whole method to all this madness, isn't there? You know, and coming back to the breath, I think nowadays as well, you know, the breath isn't just a bridge, but it's a point of focus, as you know, in the meditative journey, for us to bring us back to a place of presence, for us to be present with our endeavours. You know, it's become a mere gaseous exchange, you know, for a lot of people, and just to actually be conscious of your own breathing and what's alive in them moments, to train the attention to be mindful. It's really powerful stuff, and you know, what you're talking about is being able to rest in this authenticity and to be vulnerable and to be okay. And what comes with that is a sense of acceptance, you know, just self-acceptance. Like, I'm perfect in my imperfections, do you know what I mean? And I accept who I am, I accept where I am, and in my own journey. And when you can do that, you're not necessarily then striving to become anything apart from where you are in that moment. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you do let your guard down, and you almost naturally come into a place of the heart space, a place of appreciation, you know, a place of tenderness, and then and it's without that fear of am I going to be liked in this moment? It's like, okay, I can rest in who I am here. I can rest in that space, and if you like me, great, and if you don't like me, equally, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And then there's a sense of a more of a natural transmission which comes out of your experience, which is probably for me the most attractive thing, you know, that we can embody, and then we attract to us really authentic relationships then, rather than maybe wearing them masks and overcompensating and, you know, sort of, and we move out of that dimension of expectation and all that kind of stuff, you know. So diving into the breath a little bit more, because I know with the breath work, as I said before, you've got a meditation journey where you know, you can use that as an anchor to train awareness. But with this, you know, the journey you've been on with the breath, let's dive into a little bit more of that, because I know it's conscious, connected breath.
Yeah.
And we're using the breath not just to get into the body, but very much create a container for healing, for transformation. What does that look like then within these breathwork sessions that you're holding space for?
Yeah, so, I mean, typically, depending on the setting or the environment or the client, so we kind of offer, or I offer one-to-one breathwork sessions, but also kind of group breathwork sessions. And really, yeah, we're kind of cultivating an environment for somebody to really take a deep dive into themselves, into their psyche, into their heart, into their body. And, you know, with breath techniques that we discuss and we teach beforehand, they're able to really kind of like unlock often trapped emotions, sometimes to be able to revisit traumatic events or experiences, and to really be able to see them for what they are and to tenderly hold them, to create a healing environment, to be able to, if you like, complete the energetic circle finally. Because I think sometimes when we experience something painful or traumatic and we don't have the opportunity to fully process it, like maybe in the moment there was nobody to care for us around it, or we didn't bring it anywhere, we kind of held it in and kept it to ourselves. That when we're able to access it during a breathwork session, we can hold it. We can finally complete that energetic circuit. We can allow whatever wants to arise, be that upset, be it tears,
it's
be
like
it
a permission slip as
yeah,
well, isn't it?
Hugely. And it's just such a unique experience. That's what I love about it. It's kind of like you really get what you need. And I've learnt that massively, that we sometimes get so attached to an expectation of what a breathwork journey can entail, because sometimes we can have like cathartic experiences. Sometimes we can really access altered states of consciousness.
Absolutely.
And then other times we just have a really quietly intimate moment with ourselves. And everything in between. And again, it's a really incredible opportunity to trust a process. To just be.
To be held.
To be out of your head, to trust your breath and the wisdom of your body, and just be with whatever arises.
It's got its own intelligence, the breath, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And it also unlocks the intelligence of the body. It creates space within the body to be able to present whatever it's there that's kind of waiting to be seen.
Well, that's, talking about the breath. Because it's conscious, connected breath, isn't it? So there's an element of where you are awake, and you're conscious of the breathing, and there's almost an exaggeration or a hyperventilation with the breath. I'm right in saying that?
So the breath kind of is conscious in that we're deeply present with it. So it's moving and we're observing it, and we're observing our own process. So the invitation is not to kind of get lost. Because sometimes we zone out, or we want to get lost. Sometimes we want to sort of chase something, And my invitation is always to remain really present with it. So the connected element is that we don't rest at the top or the bottom of the breath.
Yeah.
So it's quite unusual.
There's a natural pause, isn't it, between
so
our
normally
breath?
we pause, we hold our breath. And when we create that flow, so the breath is like a complete circle.
Yeah.
So as our inhalation ends, our exhalation starts. And so the breath becomes like a wave.
Yeah.
And with that, yes, you're right, we oxygenate the system, which helps to sort of shift and unlock emotions.
Yeah.
Also, we're able to access feelings because when we hold our breath, then we're kind of like suppressing our ability to access feelings.
Yeah.
So by breathing continuously, we're just opening a channel.
Yeah.
Again, kind of creating the ideal environment to be able to feel things fully.
And it's just breath, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my goodness me, like, we're working with our own breath, you know what I mean? We don't even, as I said before, it's so unnoticed, isn't it, in the West, you know what I mean? And when do we ever we've all heard that saying, especially if someone's having a panic, just breathe. Yeah, just calm down, connect to your breath, and it's such a powerful tool, isn't it? You know what I mean? And for me, being in the room with yourself and connecting to the work that you do. I know we did a workshop just a couple of weeks ago, and to observe the experience other people are having, just connecting to their breath and being conscious with it and allowing that flow, that energy to build. Wow, it's powerful stuff. And I know, since that experience, a lot of people have just been checking in, and sharing how just a short afternoon of getting into the body, using some simple, embodiment exercises as we were doing to set us up for the breathwork session. Such a shift for some people. Such a massive shift.
Yeah, I mean, I think embodiment is something that we hear about but we don't really understand. I think as men, we're really disconnected from our bodies. Probably because that's really where all of our feeling lies, where our pain lies. Yeah. And so we become masters of numbing. Yeah. Of just switching off, checking out.
Yeah.
And however we choose to do that, whether it's with TV or, with social media or drinking, or like we're just experts at it. Yeah. And I even noticed that in myself. Yeah. And kind of like being a father and having two boys, that really kind of makes me step up my presence. It's so important to me because I know they feel it. They really know when I'm not there and when I'm there. Yeah. And like they're my greatest teachers. Absolutely. Like they really are. And I kind of feel that sense of responsibility as well of having two boys and just really wanting to teach them to inhabit their body, to be with their feelings, to embrace them, and also to notice when it is that they want to check out. Yeah, because obviously even for boys now, there's gaming and there's there's social media, there's YouTube, and they're already learning that kind of fine art of just being in their heads and just being numb. Yeah. So yeah, anything that we can do, any way that I can encourage men particularly to be in their bodies, then I'm all about that. And that can be some going for a run, go in the gym, jiu-jitsu, whatever. It's like even something which is alive for me at the moment, just taking a bath. Do you know what I mean? Just taking a bath, just creating some space, even lighting a couple of candles, putting some nice music on, getting some nice incense, some salt baths, and it puts me in the body. Do you know what I mean? You can just be with that space, and it's really beautiful. And obviously, being a father of two boys, what you encourage for the lads to do? What you check in with? We do all kinds of things, really. We do cold showers, which is always fun. We do breath work. We have a go with meditation, but they're 10 and 12 and they've got a limited kind of like concentration span. So that might be a couple of minutes. Yeah. Shaking, they love shaking. So we kind of put some music on and just kind of like really
be playful with it,
and have a laugh with that. And then, they're both into martial arts, they're both into sport. And so anything to create a balance, really. So I've kind of grown to accept the fact that right now they're into gaming and that's what they do, but we just have to kind of find a balance somewhere.
It's just setting boundaries, isn't it, and communicating as a family. And you know, and yeah, going on that journey. I know you get into nature a lot as well with the lads, don't you?
Yeah.
I've seen you being on the bike with the lads a
Yeah.
lot, and you know, you've got a dog also, so you just get out as a family and creating that space, which is important. So it's almost letting them be, you know, teenagers hanging out with their friends, gaming, as you said, but definitely finding that space, you know, where you can get into the body and also create a psychological safety for them to talk about their stuff,
Yeah.
which is big, isn't it? And I know you're very big on allowing the boys to express their emotions rather than, you know, because as a man it tends to get shut down, you know, like boys don't cry and you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's probably, for, you know, from my understanding, one of the worst things you can say, you know, to a young boy, because as you said, they just become numb to their emotions.
Yeah.
And then as we get into our adult years, and it's what comes from that is then that sense of addiction, and it becomes a loop, doesn't it? You know, which just doesn't serve many men in the world, does it?
No.
And I suppose that you see that a lot, don't you, with being a counsellor, you know, working with a lot of men, but these are a lot of veterans, aren't they? So men who come out of, you know, out of the army, out of service, and then it's integrating them back into the world, isn't it? So let's lean into that for a moment.
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
what does that, you know, what does that look like for a lot of people? You know, firstly talk about what is a veteran, and then the journey from then getting them back into an integrated part of living.
Yeah, so I mean, I predominantly work with people in recovery. I work with a balance of civilians who are kind of like embracing the journey of recovery and have maybe just transitioned out of treatment and looking to reintegrate back into the world. And I also work with a percentage of military veterans who have also just left treatment for addiction. So, you know, what is a veteran? A veteran is somebody who served in the armed forces.
Yeah.
So we work with men and women, but predominantly men who, since sort of leaving the army, have struggled to reintegrate, have maybe had existing issues with alcoholism or addiction, and we support them. We support them to work with their recovery, to get to understand themselves, to really sort of start and maintain their healing journey.
Yeah.
So that's been really eye-opening for me.
Yeah. And how long's that foundation been alive in Liverpool?
5 years now.
Yeah. Tom Harrison House.
Tom Harrison House, that's right. Yeah. So that's the only rehabilitation centre in the UK that specifically focuses on addiction for military veterans.
Yeah. And is it a 12-week programme, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do a 12-week programme where they access group therapy, where they do equine therapy, kind of like, so really quite a revolutionary sort of programme that's specifically designed for veterans. They work around the sort of principles of honour, hope and healing.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's it's an incredible organisation to be part of.
Yeah, and is that inspired by a lot of the Clear Mind stuff that you've done in the past, or?
Yeah, so I mean I've had an involvement with Clear Mind, which is an organisation based in Vancouver, Canada, and that was like my second introduction to exploring my own work and my own process, and that was probably about 11 years ago. Yeah. So I did a workshop called The Awakening in a building on Rodney Street, and it just blew my mind. You know, like I was so new to the world of speaking about feelings and terrified by it, actually. I'd never looked at myself, I'd never explored any of that stuff. And it was Paula, my wife, who sort of subtly insinuated that maybe, you know, like I should
do a bit of
maybe
work.
I've got a bit of work to do. So actually my first experience was with the Mankind Project. I did the New Warrior Adventure, and that blew my mind too. That was a really powerful experience where I spent the whole weekend with men and hadn't had probably the first ever opportunity in my life to feel the kind of caring capacity of men. I kind of didn't believe it existed, actually. I I had a mistrust of men, actually. And that really opened my eyes.
Yeah.
But again, I wasn't ready for it. There were moments of it that just, so kind of early on for me, freaked me out a bit. If
We
I'm
naturally
honest.
compete against men, don't
Yeah.
we, and size men up, and so that understanding of that actually you can be held by other men, you know, is so alien to so many men out there. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you know, the Mankind Project, it's a massive organisation, isn't it, in the UK and beyond. And then leading into that clear mind stuff then.
Yeah, so then I'd kind of maybe wet my feet with the Mankind Project, stepped into the clear mind work and did a few workshops, and then maybe retreated for a little bit, and, you know, like really inspired by the workshops, had some cathartic healing experiences, but then, and actually was first introduced to breathwork by Clear Mind. But then I'd retreat back into my normal ways, and I started doing some counselling with Dwayne O'Kane, who's the founder of Clear Mind, and that was a real blessing for me. An opportunity to work with a man who just taught me so much about myself, and taught me about kind of, again, like more about what men are capable of. Really opened my eyes. So he, for years, had been encouraging me to take their practitioner's training program to become qualified as a counsellor, and I was really cynical at first, and I kind of thought there was like he wanted something from me, or he just wanted the money, and I couldn't commit to the time, and I was making all these excuses.
Was you the personal trainer at the time?
I was a personal trainer, and I loved that. Like, I lived and breathed that. Fascinated by the health side of it, but I think equally, and you and I have discussed this before, there was that desire to kind of create an external shell that was never enough.
Like cosmetically just wanting to look.
I wanted to look as okay as possible. So that kind of became an unhealthy obsession.
Becomes an obsession,
me, really.
doesn't it? For most men, really.
And it was never enough. Whatever I did was never enough, but I still kept doing it, and so again, like I would utilise that, believing that everything else inside wasn't enough. So if I looked okay, then I'd be okay. I'd find a partner, or I'd have friends, or whatever it was, but it was all purely kind of external. But I knew I loved it, and I started to love the interaction with clients as well. Like, there was something really special and intimate about the kind of client-trainer relationship. And I developed some amazing friendships on the journey. But I towards the end, I just had this sense that sometimes I was offering people something that I no longer believed in. That actually people were seeking to make themselves feel okay by kind of focusing on everything that was external. And I just felt conflicted with that. It felt like I was, and I know that, and I'm not kind of generalising, and I absolutely know that's not the case for all personal trainers. But I felt like that's what I had been doing to a degree. I was kind of like teaching people what had helped me. But actually it wasn't helping, it was hindering.
And I suppose the journey that you've been on, you know, internally then with the clear mind and everything else that unfolded, you know, you were just probably naturally going in a new direction. You maybe wanted to use, you know, the things that you were learning to serve in a different way. And so then how did that unfold then with the clear mind? You went on the
so I did their course while still working. And I mean, it was a real baptism by fire, but it was such a kind of constant exposure to myself and to my own work. I had no choice. I was exposed. I was really open, and I loved it at the same time. Like, I loved getting to know myself better. I loved reconnecting to my truth. I loved being able to reframe my own story. And actually what Clear Mind gave me was permission to believe that I had a purpose. That actually, God, I can be something, I can do something. And for the first time in my life, I actually really believed that.
Yeah, you felt like you belonged.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of empowerment there, isn't it? Natural confidence, which comes from that transmission. It's powerful.
Yeah. So discovering that purpose, and then stepping out of personal training and into this, it was like another new chapter for me.
Yeah.
But it felt really natural.
Yeah.
And kind of Clear Mind gave me some amazing tools to be able to work with people, and a confidence to just be with someone in whatever it is that they're with, whatever they're dealing with. Of course. So yeah, after doing that, that's when the breathwork training came in, and again it's kind of just progressed, and I love to learn. I love to sort of to dive into things, and it's always inspired initially by my own healing, and then how I can kind of bring that out into the world.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful when you look back on your life, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You think, wow, okay, I was a personal trainer for such a long time, and you know, loved, you know, that connection and how it helped you to feel into where you were as a person in them moments, and you meet all these new people and you make all these new friends, and then life just naturally shifts, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And you know, there tends to be, from my experience, when you do some work on yourself, when you actually start to look in the mirror, you know, and have some simple tools and a container for you to work with your experience and go inside, then change is inevitable, isn't it? You know what I mean? But we resist the change, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, we resist it so much, and when then we can, you know, sort of flow with that change and move in a direction which feels purposeful, create some space, make some skilled choices, and then you maybe start to follow your passion then, don't you? And by the sounds of it, that's what's really been unfolding. I mean, you've obviously was passionate about personal training, but as you said, you just, you know, you naturally come towards the end of a journey with something, don't you? And then it's like, okay, well, what am I passionate about now?
Yeah.
What's driving me, you know, to do the things that I'm doing? What is the motivations behind the way I'm behaving, all that kind of stuff? So yeah, moved away from personal training. I don't do any more personal training.
No,
do you?
not
Yeah,
at all.
it's completely
it's purely counselling and breathwork.
Yeah. And then I know you're starting to weave that work that you do with men as well. You know, I know you're inspired to hold space, not just for counselling, but for group sessions.
Yeah.
You know, coming back to what we did a couple of weeks ago, we held, we had a workshop in Planet Yoga, didn't we? You know, where we held like 15 men, you know, and we went on a journey with them, and it was an amalgamation of like sharing, you know, opening up, being present with one another, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of breath work, some simple stuff at the start, then more sharing, just creating that container. And then we were just leading it all up to the breathwork session, weren't we? And it tends to last about an hour, doesn't it? You know, with you know, some inspiring music, and by that time the men are like, they feel safe, you know, they feel like they're being held, and then that's where a lot of magic really unfolds then from them moments, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was a just mind-blowing day, wasn't it? You know, like who would have thought that we would sell out a workshop for men in Liverpool called Back to the Heart?
Yeah.
You know, like it just blows me away to even think about that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the courage and the openness of the men that just came and showed up.
Yeah.
And like that inspired me.
Yeah.
Just to sort of be in that energy, because again, you know, a little bit like today, like I was in that place of, you know, that kind of imposter syndrome of being in my own fear and my own feelings whilst holding space.
Yeah.
Whilst sharing something that I'm really, truly passionate about. And that is the purpose. That's the thing that feels really real to me.
Absolutely.
It's like if I can in some way be part of helping people to reconnect to themselves, to their truth and to their heart, and to just rediscover themselves again, then I'm all for that. To minimise the suffering that they experience. You know,
it's powerful work. You know, and everything that we're talking about here is something that we're familiar with and that we've embodied over a period of time. And as you said, you know, just to be in a room full of men, you know, Scouse men, you know what I mean, you know, lads from Liverpool who are, you know, all lived a life, you know what I mean, but just I've got this yearning to go deeper with themselves, you know what I mean, but maybe never being offered such a safe container. And we know in the power of the group sessions, you know, there's something, because when one man is vulnerable, it just gives all the other men permission to be vulnerable, do you know what I mean? Because sometimes that one-to-one basis, you know, there's still a little bit of a guard, you know, and then all of a sudden there's you know, I personally like the group dynamic, you know what I mean, and it has to start with the facilitator. You know, if I'm vulnerable and if I'm expressing that vulnerability and that truth, then you're demonstrating it to the other men, and then to watch, you know, some hard fellas, you know, on the outside just let that guard down and go into the body, connect to the breath, and then for them to have such a you know, an experience, whatever that experience may be, and then for them to take that experience then out to the world, because it's all about direct experience, isn't it, Matt? You know, we you can talk about this stuff intellectually over and over and over, but it's important that the direct experience is tasted, isn't it? Yeah. Because then you can't deny your own experience.
No. I think there, you know, again, just the power of that practice, just it again, it taught me something new. It showed me something just stunning, and that was just that. It was those 15 men who were just so open and so in touch with themselves. Just blew me away. You know, we don't know, do we? We genuinely don't know what's going on for people. Yeah. You know, like we make assumptions based on how people look or how people present, but we genuinely don't know until we create a space where people can be themselves. Yeah. Where, like you said, where you build a safe container where you just welcome. All of your humanness is welcome. Yeah. And again, like I want to do more and more of that. Because I think for so many years, like I felt like there was something wrong with me, you know, like in terms of my feelings, my thoughts, the way that I showed up in the world, you know. And it's sort of since learning to connect with like unresolved grief and my own losses and stuff that I'd never ever spoken about, you know, like I wasn't aware of how carrying all of that stuff impacted me so deeply, how I was in relationship, how I was in the world. Yeah. And, you know, and still does to a degree to this day, but I can catch it. I'm aware of it. I can be
with it, can't you? I think, you know, this is obviously an opportunity now to bring in some of your own trauma, because I know you lost your mother at a young age, didn't you? And how that has impacted, you know, parts of your life and parts of your behaviour, and maybe where some addictions have come from, and all that stuff, you know. These wounds, these traumatic experiences can play out unconsciously in our lives, you know. And I remember reading the book actually by Clear Mind. It's called Real, isn't it? An Authentic Connection. Great book. And it was probably the first time I started to really understand the wounds that we pick up as children, you know, and then how them wounds, you know, play out unconsciously in our adult life, you know what I mean? So talk about then, you know, your own trauma, it's just so we can give people who are listening today a feel of what's happened in your life.
Yeah, so like you said, I lost my mum when I was 12. Yeah. She'd been suffering with cancer for about 18 months prior to that. Yeah, it was a really kind of scary sort of uncertain time, and in the moment, my mum especially did her very best to protect us, my dad included, from the reality of what was actually unfolding. Yeah, she would almost go as far as to attend like doctor's appointments on her own, tell my dad to wait in the waiting room. She really wanted to protect us. And we had, my brother and I had this sense that everything was fine. You know, like that she said she's going to be okay. She said she's having treatment, and there's that sort of that childhood innocence that's just desperate to believe anything, and I firmly believed that, but at the same time was experiencing her illness develop, and her losing her hair, and just a really painful time for us as a family. We're a small family. We weren't great at communicating what was going on for us individually. It was scary, and so we would avoid it probably at all costs. And it wasn't until the day my mum actually died that I really genuinely realised how ill she was. I went to see her, and she was unable to speak at that point, and it was a really hard day. And I remember going home. My dad came back to the house and said, "She's gone." And it just, obviously at that point, our whole world changed there and then in that moment. And there was a period of numbness and disbelief, of kind of right, well, what do we do? I remember being off school for a week, a funeral, which then kind of brought the reality back into life, and then that return to whatever normality is. Go back to school, Dad goes back to work, and we never ever discuss it. We don't speak about how we feel. We don't seek help, although it's offered to us. And we just do our best. We really, really do our best. But in the absence of space to speak, for me personally, I just retreated into my own head. I got really, really lost there and became very afraid of loss. I would, with hypervigilance, look for it everywhere. I would try and micromanage every kind of opportunity, looking for the next potential loss, which would rob me of presence and joy and childhood. And it was a hard time, and I felt a responsibility to hold all of my stuff as well, because I could see that my dad was struggling. He was trying to run a business and run a house, learning to cook, learning to do all the stuff that he'd never had to do before. And so as a household of three men, we struggled. We struggled on our own, and we each had our own kind of process and journey within it. And it's undoubtedly shaped me, and now I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had to be able to heal, to integrate that wound. And again, part of that has really inspired me to do what I do, to keep showing up. To notice how I feel and still kind of be present in the world and still hold a healing space for people. I feel so passionate about that, and I'm learning every day to embrace those parts of myself, to embrace those wounds.
We don't talk about death much, do we, Matt, in the West? And and there's there doesn't tend to be a real safe space to talk about loss, and to explore that experience, and so there was just them three men in the house, doing your best, holding all your stuff in. And then, where was you at the time? Where was you living at the time? You.
So we lived in Cheshire then.
In Cheshire,
in Mobley, and we kind of moved around a little bit. We left the family home eventually. So kind of grew up. I went to an all boys school again, which are kind of typically not a place where you bring
any
your
sort
vulnerability.
of
It's that there was at that time for me it was a sense of it's not welcome here. Don't just leave that at home, please. So I did, and again, like I said, I mastered that fine art of appearing to be absolutely okay.
And would you suffer in silence? Would you cry alone, or did you ever have a container where it was available to you?
I'd suffer in silence, full
Yeah.
of judgment
Yeah.
and guilt. I had a huge amount of guilt, and the guilt was really born from the fact that I didn't have the opportunity to fully say goodbye to my mum, to
Yeah.
fully let her know how much I loved her.
Yeah.
That haunted me for years. I felt that had I been more informed, had I known more, I would have spent more time with her. I would have
Yeah.
spoken to her. I would have,
Course.
it's all of those things. And again, as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, you don't know. You only know what you're told. But
Absolutely.
But kind of, growing up after that, I believed that I should have known.
Mm.
And I really kind of held that guilt in. And so, life was like joy I felt uncomfortable with happiness and joy. Like it just didn't feel right, and so I would sabotage it. Relationships were really hard. Like I was desperate for love, for female love, and that's like, for
Mothering,
girls, that's
nurturing,
like repellent almost, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Because there was that sort of that desperation, like, just want me, please make me feel better, just love me so I feel okay. And so all my friends are kind of in these casual relationships, and I'm like looking to just for the
Meet
love
the
of
one.
my life.
And
that was just painful. That was repeatedly painful. And again, I didn't know why. I couldn't connect my struggles in relationship. I couldn't
With
connect
that wound.
with that, or this desire for control. I became a prolific control freak. Just wanted to know everything, to protect everyone. And again, just without that awareness of where that was coming from, that was really hard. And so for me, again, it was like, it's me, there's something wrong with me. I am like, I'm weird because I'm not living this kind of carefree life that all my friends are. And loads of judgment around that. And so then kind of growing up into a young man, that magnifies, because then there's that sense of how men should be. How a man should be in the world. He should have his shit together. Like he should be brave, he should be courageous, confident. And I felt the opposite of that. And the harder I fought the harder I fought, the harder it became. That it actually wasn't about fighting. And I'd eventually learn it was about embracing, but it took me, another couple of decades, really. And getting married and having kids to really meet myself. And kind of go, oh, fuck.
And where did Paula come into all this then? And she's your wife.
Yeah, she is my wife. So she was a client. She was a personal training client, not a counselling client. She was a personal training client, and there was just something about her that I was just so drawn to.
You were in Liverpool at the time, then was you?
No, I was in Cheshire, but I was travelling to Liverpool. So I did 2 days a week working in Liverpool, and then I did 3 days in Manchester. And a friend of mine referred her to me, and so I came to train with her, and she just fascinated me. There was just something about her. And I later discovered that she was in recovery herself. And so we had, I was just fascinated by her process, by her journey. Like she'd done 10 years of, I think at that time, I mean, she's now just celebrated 20 years of recovery, sobriety, which is amazing. But at the time it was, probably around the 10-year mark.
Deep conversations, meaningful, long.
I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I felt really understood for the first time in a long time. And I felt really safe to be me, to bring all of me, and to talk, to start to, and actually I didn't invite the conversations, but she had this knack of just getting things out of me,
getting under the skin a little bit.
Definitely. And just from day one has really encouraged me, has really stood by me and propped me up. Was a huge part in encouraging me to leave the personal training profession and follow my heart. The financial implications of that, like to just start something brand new again. And she's always been, like a huge part of my healing journey. Like without her, I can't imagine actually where I'd be. I don't know that I would ever have discovered any of this stuff that I'm now so grateful for. It's
big link in the chain there, isn't she? You know,
yeah, very much so.
And when we meet these people in our lives and they're able to hold space for us, you know, but she was only able to hold space for something that she'd experienced. Do you know what I mean? You know, she'd been in that world for 10 years, and so she was able to embody it. She was able to talk about it, and for me, it is when we get into them deep and meaningful conversations about being human, you know, about the human experience. I mean, for me, that is deep and meaningful when we can really dive into that. It might not be deep and meaningful to other people to talk about the human experience, but I know for us, we become extroverts in these moments where we're talking about breath work, we're talking about psychotherapy, we're talking about men's work, we're talking about healing, yoga, holding space. You know, it's something that we're so familiar with. And I just remember, you know, doing this work and just realising this is it. This is what I've been looking for. Do you know what I mean? You know, I was looking for a sense of self. I was looking for something, and we were searching for answers. And then instead of searching outside for them, when that penny drops and you go, actually, I'm going to look inside. I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to do some work. And then when you're able to share the experience with somebody and have them, you know, them conversations, and you're able to be yourself and you're able to be vulnerable and you're celebrated in that authenticity, it's so powerful, isn't it? And all you're really doing is just being present with one another. It comes back to presence, doesn't it? It comes back to that sense of just holding space, such a simple space, yet profound space of being with somebody else, building rapport, and embodying the present moment experience, which is powerful stuff. And I know that's a part of the work, which is it's almost like the golden key, isn't it? You know what I mean? You know, with all the work that you're doing, presence is
everything.
It's everything.
It was the missing link forever, you know, for such a long time, and now, like, resting in presence is just the biggest gift, like you said, that like we can give anybody, isn't it? And that takes us embracing who we are too. Like that takes us being safe enough and comfortable enough in our own skin to be able to just give ourselves to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And that's been, you know, another big learning for me.
It's beautiful, isn't it, when you can you feel like you can untangle your stuff, you feel safe to do that, you feel like you're being seen, you're being heard, and you're being held. And when that unfolds, it's like, wow, you know, there's a sense of just a lot of healing can happen in them moments, can't it, as you do know. And it's from my own experience, I feel blessed to have had many moments in my life where people have held me, and just with their presence. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to think equally I'm skilled in holding the space for others. It's a two-way thing, Matt, isn't it? You know, we sort of demand presence off other people, but we may not be so good at it ourselves, especially nowadays with the modern times of high-speed living, that everything's so fast. We can spend so much time being distracted by the outside world, social media, you know, even the phones and or even, you know, our endeavours. You know, we can be elsewhere a lot of the time. There's a great saying by John Lennon, you know, life happens when you're busy making plans, you know. So.
And I think also as well, we're often so anxious and so kind of deeply in our sympathetic nervous system that we're in that almost constant state of fight or flight that we can't be present in our body. No. So we can't be open to receive, you know, somebody else.
Can't relax, can we?
No. And so, we cannot connect because we're one step ahead. We're in strategy. We're not kind of in connection because we are. There's parts of many of us that are terrified with real connection.
With uncertainty as well, you know. And there's nothing wrong with strategizing, you know. It's important to use the mind to our advantage and to be creative, but there's a time for strategizing and there's a time for presence, isn't there? There's a time for being in this experience, you know, instead of, I like to say, the what's next syndrome. It's like, you know, what's next. From my understanding and the stuff that I teach here in Liverpool is actually, you know, being creative and using your imagination to create things, and it's important we do create things, but sometimes it's like, are we doing this to fill a void? You know, are we in an unconscious vibration of lack and scarcity where we're strategizing to explore a future concept to make us feel whole or to make us feel happy? Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be happy till I've got that, so I'm going to strategize towards that. Do you know what I mean? And when a penny dropped, I remember the penny dropped for me. I was like, wow, I'm in a vibration of scarcity here. You know what I mean? I'm vibrating lack, and I'm strategizing to make me feel whole, but that's a future concept, rather than coming back to this self-acceptance, rather than, you know, being with my humanness in them moments and still strategizing, but not from a place of, you know, of striving, just more, okay, I now know what I'm passionate about, I now know the direction I want to go in, I'm aspired to move into that direction, but actually it's from a place of self-acceptance. And when these pennies drop and you apply these virtues and this knowledge, life can change, you know, immeasurably and dramatically in how we navigate really our connections with others.
Yeah, and it kind of goes full circle really to what we said earlier on in the conversation about embracing uncertainty, about kind of like leaning into your edge and trusting, you know, like that I said to you earlier today, I'm learning more and more to trust situations as they present themselves to me, and just to be with them, to show up, to be with my feelings, to be with my discomfort and make space for it, to breathe into it if I need to, and still show up, and trust it'll be okay. And that's a practice, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's a skill. Massive one.
I know you're reading a book at the minute called The Surrender Experiments. Yeah. How are you getting on with that?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's actually second time round.
Yeah.
You know, when you kind of think, oh, actually, do you know what, I'm really ready for that message again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big reoccurring message that runs through the book is kind of like, as when the universe presents you with something, just go with it. Just show up.
Be present with it and make skilled choices around how you're seeing that moment, rather than maybe strategizing in more of an illusionary sense of self. Who's the author there? Is it Michael J. Slinger? Yeah. He's written a great book, The Untethered Soul, hasn't he? Yeah. And they're just beautiful books that gives you just some signposts, isn't it? You know, then reference points for you to apply that stuff then into your own experience. And that's where the power is, when you apply your stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. And we're constantly growing and evolving, aren't we? And we're you know, we learn and then we practice and we embody. And I feel very much in that place at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like I had a moment 5 minutes ago where I was sat here thinking, God, I'm actually doing a podcast. I'm speaking to somebody about my life and my experiences, and it felt really surreal. It felt like something that, you know, like if I actually went back in time to that sort of 13-year-old, you know, and never in a million years would he have ever believed that he would be doing something like this, that he would sort of speak, or, you know, that he would sit in front of a group of men and hold space for them. Like this stuff felt impossible. Like I would honestly, like I can't even begin to tell you that.
It's beautiful when you have them moments, isn't it, where you're in that moment, you're holding the space, and you know, you hold such a strong space, such a beautiful space for men and for women and all people from all walks of life to, you know, to be present and to be authentic and to be themselves, and it's like it then gets you excited for your future, because you think, wow, anything's possible here for me. Do you know what I mean? And you get beyond your limitations, don't you? And you get beyond your fears, and that's where so much expansion starts to unfold, isn't it, in your life? I know you've got a couple of coaches there then that you're working with, and there's a guy over in America. Who's that? And
so I work with two guys. I work with a guy called Zach Baraka, who's a men's coach. So he kind of focuses on like deep inner work with men. So lots of embodiment practices, spiritual psychology. He's been a really kind of integral part of the last sort of 6 months for me. So I'm on my second 6 month block with him. yeah, I've learned so much about myself. It's it's intense, deep work.
Yeah.
And I'm challenged with it, but
Yeah.
but I'm massively growing as a result
Yeah.
of it. It feels incredible to have a man of his capability and his energy and wisdom
Yeah.
kind of in my corner.
Yeah.
Again, like I feel so blessed at the moment that I have a group of men who are just filling me with so much of their wisdom.
Yeah. And what an
It's just
investment that is.
It's incredible. So we work on lots of embodiment work, lots of practice, and then we look at at the moment we're looking from a professional kind of stance, looking at my limiting beliefs essentially, like what I bring, what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Again, like stuff that it was really interesting actually. We've recently been working on purpose, and I had such a block around it. It was like I just couldn't go there. And every time he said, "Right, today we're gonna return to this," I'd just be like, "Oh, can't we just breathe or do some
Do something else.
yoga again or something?" And it was like, no, we keep coming back to this thing, and it wasn't really until I connected to the truth where, again, like I can very easily fall back into that place of, who am I to do this work?
Yeah.
Who am I to offer this space?
Yeah.
Again, that kind of sense of imposter syndrome comes up. So we moved through that and created, a really powerful set of values and a mission and just, amazing. And alongside him, I'm working with a guy called Gitten Tonkov on a one-to-one basis. And we're doing some really great breathing work together. So he's helping me with some of my own processing. So it's minimal talking, all the focus on the body, and his work is like mind blowing.
A lot of conscious touch and
So he incorporates breath with movement and touch, and it's like the holy grail as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So that again, it's just a blessing. Like I feel at the moment that this is the where the internet is so amazing.
Yeah.
Is that we can access these incredible brains.
Yeah.
And we can work with them and learn, and it is such a kind of rich time to access.
And he's got a book, hasn't he?
He's got a book called Feel to Heal, which is fantastic.
Next level, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know I've got that there in the I ordered a few weeks ago, and I had a little scan through it. It's like, and he was inspired by a journey, wasn't he? That he took with some. And there was a psychedelic journey that just sort of was the missing link for him to put all his his gifts into a platform which was then going to share with the world, and what a journey that's been for him.
Yeah, just that sort of, like you said before, that simple reconnection with breath.
Yeah.
That's available to us at any moment. It's one thing I sort of say to people. Breath work can be something as simple as, you stood at the kettle.
Yeah.
And you just notice that you're holding your breath.
Yeah.
And so you take a deep conscious breath, just one breath, just kind of literally like. And just that reconnection to yourself, to everything that's present. It's like a reset button.
Yeah.
And the more that you do it, and the more that you practice it, it's I don't know, it for me anyway, it's become the biggest tool, biggest tool to ground myself and to reconnect, to not, if I feel myself kind of going up into my head again, into fear and strategy, it's just a couple of breaths and I'm back again.
Yeah. And I know recently you've just completed the meditation with myself, level 1. And I know you've been familiar with meditation for quite some time. And how are you then integrating some of the tools you've learned recently into everything else that you've got? Because it's probably talking about having a morning routine, isn't it? And having creating that space of a morning to connect to the breath, and then to to go beyond that analytical part of the brain and all that kind of stuff. So how's that journey been for you recently?
Amazing. Yeah, it was. I loved doing that, and that was something that Paula and I did together.
Yeah.
Which, we rarely get to do our work together, and that was a gift in itself, that we could spend a few hours together, with a new group of people, meeting them and going through the process with them. There was some like really powerful reminders within the course. Lots of messages I really needed to hear. Many of them again about kind of getting out of my own way. And then that importance of practice, which again I know, but it's just that reminder that it's just, for me, if I start my day in practice, if I breathe, if I meditate, if I move, just literally, minimum of 10 minutes, ideally half an hour, my day is just unrecognizable. My current default or historic default would be, like snooze, snooze, coffee, and then just anxiety, panic, short chasing with the kids, chasing them out of the house, and feeling so out of alignment with who I am. Just thinking like, God, all it takes, just get up, just move, because the snoozing is a lie. Like it's just the worst thing that was ever invented. Because it's just a total false economy. Because I'm waiting for that alarm to go off again. Just get up and be with yourself. Be with yourself internally. Be with your breath and with your body, and just create an environment that sets you up for the day. And I know it sounds really cliche and really, everyone's talking about this, but it works. It
does work.
It just works.
I remember the concept, coming across the concept of the ultimate morning, when I heard it from Tony Robbins in 2018. Having sort of been, having a strong meditation practice daily from around 2016. And, obviously, you still go in the gym and doing a few bits and bobs. And then there was this ultimate morning. I was like, I'm almost doing this, but just fine-tuning it. And then I can't deny how my endeavours externally have been a measure of having that space with myself of a morning time, just to do some simple stuff, you know what I mean? And as you said, it can be a minimum of 10 or 15 minutes, as you said, ideally half an hour. I started creating space from like 5:30 till 8 o'clock, you know what I mean? And it was just like no one was getting in. I'm not letting anyone into that space, and that is my time. And I was incredibly it was very precious to me, and I still have a morning routine. It's not as long or as intense, but for almost 2 years, from 2018 to around 2020, it was just stoic. And and externally, so many amazing things happened organically, you know what I mean? Because I was just in my best self. I was just in a vibration of abundance. I was out there doing my thing, but my cup was full. I mean, like, so that non-negotiable 10 minutes of stillness, like that's got to happen. Whatever else happens, just that. And then it just depends for me on what I feel like. So like I'm really loving unwinding at the moment. So finding some music, being with the conscious breath. And just allowing the body to unwind, to find those sort of natural spiral movements. That's just, I love that. That's definitely one of my favourites. If there's, if I'm waking up with fear or anxiety, shaking is a winner. Like 10 minutes of shaking. Osho dynamic meditation. That's great, isn't it?
Game changer. Journaling, just a few lines, just something. I love that. But they're all gifts that are freely available to us.
Freely available, and there's just an invitation anyone tuning in today, whether you're a male or a female, is to just give this stuff a go. Do you know what I mean? Like, as you said, it might just be a little bit of shaking, you know what I mean? Bit of cold water exposure, maybe a bit of journaling, even to just journal, what have I got to do today? You know what I mean? Get it out on paper, get it out of the head, and it's just having some simple, things to prepare your day for, which can have a massive effect, can't it? Bit of hydration of a morning, maybe a bit of physical exercise. Nature's a big one for me, that I'm really trying to embody a lot more of, is getting out into nature, getting around the park, even if it's just half an hour fresh air. We've got an hour, a new member of the family. We've got a dog there, so I almost, I got him because I know he was going to bring a deeper connection for me with nature, going to get me out the house. You know what I mean? Because we can get so comfortable, can't we, Matt? Putting Netflix on and putting our feet up, and there's nothing wrong with all that. You know what I mean? It's got its place, hasn't it? Okay, so just sort of coming then towards the end of our conversation, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, and
Yeah, me too.
it's been great having you here. What's next for you then? Because we're now coming towards the end of 2020, and you know, you were talking about purpose and values and mission before. So how does that look? Maybe the next 6 months of your life. What's that looking like for you?
I'm currently mentoring on the latest or the newest cycle of the Breathwork course, the Integrative Breathwork course, which is just amazing to be able to sit and learn again, and also to have an opportunity to hold some space within it, and to pay back my gratitude, because that really was such a transformative experience for me. So I'm doing that. That's kind of like a fortnightly commitment. Just continuing with my own development, and you know, like you and I are talking about putting on some more workshops.
Absolutely.
So kind of making some time to think about those and be creative with them and put some stuff together. I've got the Men Without Masks retreat in Feb, which I'm very much looking forward to. And just kind of keep moving in the same direction. You know, I'm in this place of learning and practice at the moment, and there's growth there, and again, like, my own kind of healing works alongside that. You know, finding, you know, time for the boys and for Paula, and balance, trying to find a level of balance whilst growing what I'm doing. I'd love to do more group work. So when the kind of current restrictions start to lift, like really kind of building that more.
Yeah, I can see us, you know, we did a great workshop there, and with 15, 16 men, and I can see us, you know, doing that experience with, you know, with 30 men, you know, big spaces, you know what I mean, and creating that energy, not just men, but, you know, women as well, you know, and I can, there's definitely a need for it, I feel, and it brings about such a great connection to oneself, but also collectively, you know, with the community of people that all want to dive into this stuff nowadays, and I think it's readily available, isn't it, you know, and it's also it's become very accepted in the West and in Liverpool, you know, this type of work, which is exciting stuff. And I think, you know, the future's bright, and we need people like you, do you know what I mean? And, you know, just getting to grip of your story and some of your own wounds, and how you've integrated all that stuff in your life, and the journey you've been on. For you to be a facilitator, you have to have gone on some sort of journey of self-discovery, and wow, you know, just listening to you and all the stuff that you've done with Clear Mind, and the Mankind Project, and all the stuff that you do at Tom Harrison House, and the stuff that you've done with Steph Jensen, and the current teachers you've got. Like, you're doing the work, you know what I mean? You're doing the work, and, you know, I know you're a father, so you're holding space now for two young boys, two young men in the household, and then having a partner who embodies this work as well, and holds the space for this work to unfold. So you're very much in it, and you've embodied it, and I have deep respect for your journey so far, and I'm really excited for your future. Excited for us to work together. It's just beautiful to see how, you know, that integration from moving from that sort of personal trainer domain into this sort of, you know, this life coach, this really strong, integrated, balanced man, you know, which demonstrates to other men, like, a sense of it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to expose yourself, you know, and we want to create that safe container, don't we, for people to have these experiences, and really just connecting to the breath, something such as simple as the breath. So, Matt, I want to thank you very much for being here today and sharing your story. You know, 2020 is going to be big for us, you know, as a team, and I just want to wish you all the best, you know, with all your other endeavours moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, and I'd like to, you know, sort of take this opportunity as well to sort of publicly acknowledge you, you know, and the work that you do, you know, not only, you know, to Liverpool, but, you know, for men in general, to really, like, you make a huge difference in people's lives, and you've massively impacted my life over the last 12 months. And like you said, we've had a lovely relationship over the last 10 years, but it's in the last 12 months, this opportunities like this, they wouldn't happen. Like you have just brought something out of me which I am beyond grateful for, and you're a huge and important part of my life.
Thank you so much. I think we show each other so many different facets of ourselves that maybe we haven't tapped into yet. Do you know what I mean? And you certainly show me a part of myself which sometimes I can forget. That's real tenderness and that real softness. And sometimes I can get that warrior energy out and be like, bro, getting shit done and I'm in action. But you show me that sensuality within myself and that intimacy and that opportunity for me to be soft, and I'm really grateful for that. But equally, I love how dangerous you can be, with when you bring that warrior energy out and the shit that you're getting done in your life. And so yeah, it's definitely a match made in heaven, and I'm really thankful for our bond. So thank you again for being here. Good luck in everything, moving forward. And again, this is for the benefit of the listener. Thank you for tuning in today. We got Matt Gunn here. Hope you've enjoyed it. If anyone wants to get older, Matt, how do we, if people want to, moving forward, I'm guessing people are going to be interested in maybe some breathwork sessions or, so how do people get hold of you, Matt?
So probably by email would be the best way to do it. So maybe we could attach a link.
Yeah, we'll attach a link onto that. That'd be awesome.
That'd be cool.
And watch out for some of the stuff that we're going to be moving into in 2020. We've been holding some great work, which is starting to give birth to here in South Liverpool on Planet Yoga on Smithdown Road. So there's going to be a lot more of them moving forward. So do keep an eye out, keep in touch, follow Matt Gunn and myself, and moving forward, we're very much going to be getting back into the heart space.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
So guys, thank you so much for checking in. A great conversation today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a great evening, whatever you're up to, and a lovely Christmas. I'm hoping to get a couple more in just before the Christmas. It's just before the madness unfolds. Which is I'm looking forward to diving in and having some time off. So again, thank you for checking in. Do check us out. We are on Creating Space. There's so many platforms that we're on. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. And we're also on the Scouse Guru app, which constantly putting new material on for as well. So have fun. I'll see you all again soon, and good evening. Love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Creating Space is sponsored by the Scouse Guru app, an all-purpose meditation app that feeds into all your needs, developing peace of mind, increasing mental focus, lowering stress levels while discovering inner stillness, awakening your potential and educating you on all matters related to human behaviour and personal development. Download the app for free on the App Store or get it on Google Play today.